If you want to profit from your voice, such as speaking at events and selling product in the back of the room, or using audio, video, or even written text to grow your consulting business, then pay close attention. I'm Justin Hit with Ad Briefings Copywriting Tips. Whether you do consulting in the area of marketing, copywriting, sales automation, or any other way, being able to clearly explain and interest an audience in a topic is extremely valuable for you to reach the largest number of people possible and to lower the cost of your marketing in general. What's most important about this technique is that when you're speaking in front of an audience, when you structure your presentation the right way, the audience becomes engaged and involved in what you have to say and is even set up for the desire to purchase what you have to offer. In today's podcast, we're going to talk specifically about building talking points. What are you going to say in your presentation that will set the reader up to want, desire, and even yearn for what you're offering so that you can become the solutions provider for their needs? This is a model that works very well, and it works under the premise that your audience really isn't going to pay much attention. You're going to lose their attention quickly, and in order to keep their attention, you have to give them chunks of information or sound bites that provide a valuable resource. So, for example, if you don't quickly get your audience's attention with a hook, if you don't promise them something of interest, if you don't then deliver on that promise and then engage them in a question, very often the visitor will, or the listener will, or the audience member will essentially just wander away. They'll lose attention. Now, I just demonstrated to you the 4 steps that are necessary, and these 4 steps or elements build a 2 to 3 minute chunk of your presentation. Now, your overall presentation could be 30 minutes, it could be 50 minutes, it could be 2 hours, but your presentation is composed of small chunks of information that are set up to give the visitor, the listener, the audience something of value. So, for example, with the hook, you're going to tease your audience about what they want, what their needs are. The hook is going to make sure they know they're in the right place. It's going to set up why the person is there. Then, with a promise, you'll help the listener go from where they are to where they want to be. You'll promise them a brighter future through the context of your presentation. Show them you are the path and the way to get what they're looking for. Then you're going to deliver some facts, short tips, pointers, the what and why of your presentation, the actions to take, the mistakes to avoid, and that is the delivery, which is going to give them something within a very short period of time that fulfills the promise, that's related to the hook, and keeps their attention. And finally, going to ask them a question. The question is about engagement. The question is about, can you see yourself doing this in your business? So, for example, if I was going to apply this in the context of speaking to an audience to persuade, influence, or otherwise get them to raise their hand and engage your business in some kind of consultation, some kind of analysis, or initial audit, if they were going to get involved, you want to make sure that you're talking to their needs and desires. So, if I was talking to you with a hook, I would talk about, do you want the undivided attention of your audience? All eyes and ears on you, your best prospects hanging on your every word as they prepare to buy what it is that you have to offer. This is how we put that together. It doesn't take a lot of time. Then I would talk about in the promise, you're going to learn 6 surefire approaches to organize, package, and present ideas for maximum persuasion. You're going to identify what your audience's needs, and you're going to be able to connect to that so that they make a stampede to your office to buy more of what you have to offer. See how that's a package? That is the promise. Next, in delivery, I could talk about, let's start with approach number 1. I can give you the reason why approach number 1 is important. I can tell you what you should do. I could tell you about the success of others, and then go down number 2, number 3, number 4. Now, when I'm talking about building talking points, each 1 to 2 minute or 3 to 5 minute chunk is going to be a single item. So when I'm delivering those 6 bullet points, number 1, I will go over same hook, promise, delivery, ask. I might say, If you want to engage your audience, you need to have the right structure so that you can easily memorize your presentation, so that you can connect with your audience. Wouldn't you want to connect with your audience? Have them paying attention to your every word? Well, structure helps you do that because it's easier to take somebody from where they are to where they want to be through some form of language. Let me give you an example of structure. Let me show you how someone else has used structure. And then you'd go to step number 2. So do you see how that works? You're really grouping up small presentations inside of a larger presentation, and each presentation incrementally moves a section of your audience towards wanting more information. Now, finally, the action. And I have in quotes here. And by the way, if you contact me at www.adbriefings.co.uk and you ask for code J0204A, I'll send you a PDF of the notes that I'm using right now, because on my notes I have at the bottom of here, it says, it's a box, it says action, and then I have in quotes the next statement that I'm about to share with you. So listen carefully. So I've gone through the 6 items. Now the same hook, promise, delivery, ask. I'm engaging the audience. I say to them, can you see how these 6 surefire approaches help you? And then I give them benefits and describe results. Now you can present with confidence and in a hearable way to attract more leads and clients. To learn more about how these and other methods attract profitable customers, then join me at, and then I can explain the event or the pitch or whatever I'm selling. So the way this works is we're building structure inside a structure. Now you can use a sales letter structure such as AIDA, attention, interest, desire, and or action, but at the attention level, you would still use this chunk, this talking point of a hook, promise, delivery, ask. So again, you're going to get their attention with a shocking fact, make a promise that's going to keep their interest in what's going on, and then tell them what you're going to deliver. Finally, you ask them to come along with you as you then build their interest. And this works for all sales models, the story star solution model, any model. In fact, we have a whole special report that talks about sales formulas, and you literally can plug in this hook, promise, delivery, and ask into any sales formula and turn what you would have written on paper into a platform presentation. So let me talk a little bit about how this works for you. So you're a copywriter, a marketer, a business development professional, and you're going to get the opportunity to get in front of an audience. Now you might be saying, Justin, I don't have an audience right now. Well, you could have an audience on social media, YouTube, a small group in your community, or elsewhere inside your industry, with even 3 to 5 people having the opportunity to share an educational presentation that gives them an opportunity to raise their hand and say they're interested in more information, raise their hand to say they're interested in a consultation, to raise their hand and ask you questions, is a valuable opportunity. So what you're going to do is you're going to record this presentation. Now, it's always best if you do this live because you can get feedback from the audience themselves to see whether or not they're still paying attention, whether or not they're still connected, whether one hook works better than the other. But when you outline your presentation before you go to present, you can actually do this with the hook, promise, delivery, and action on each individual slide. It can literally be 4 sentences. For this kind of presentation where we're talking about selling from the platform, or we're talking about using your voice to reach larger audiences, the hook is, would you like to do the presentation once and have it sell for you many times? So if you're going to speak at a small group, if you're going to do a webinar, podcast, YouTube video, or anything else, you want to make sure that you record it. Now, the promise would be is that with these talking point formulas, you'll be able to write presentations that are persuasive, easy to use, and accurate for your audience. Well, and I'll promise you that in this podcast today that we've shared some of those ideas and concepts with you. We've given you some examples and ideas. And then, of course, the delivery is your program. Now, I like 3 to 5 minute chunks because a delivery, you might deliver a specific teaching story. So you might talk about the time, for example, when I was getting started in the computer consulting world, I spoke at a minority economic development conference. Now, it was a hostile audience because the guy that got up there before me was an idiot. He said a lot of things that weren't important, that weren't valuable, that distracted from the key point of what we're there for, which is making sure everybody has access to computers so that they can take advantage. And this was during the dot com, so they can take advantage of new technology jobs. So I get up on stage and I use the same formula, except the audience was riled up. They yelled out, "We don't have computers in our community. We don't have computers in our school." Now, this is 1990s, and they really didn't have computers. It wasn't like today, there's computers everywhere. And so I had to hook that audience. So I took an example from a young man that spoke earlier that day. It was really well received by the audience. And I brought him out there and I asked him the question, "Do you have a computer at home?" And he says, "No, I don't have a computer at home." And I said, "If you had a computer at home, what would you do with it? What would you be able to do?" And he described the two or three things. So that's kind of the promise. The hook is bringing out an interesting person, a character, connecting with the audience's concerns. The promise is describing these things he can do. He said, "Well, we could do bookkeeping, and we could do marketing materials." And then the delivery was to ask the audience to brainstorm about places where multiple people could come together to get the computer systems that they need. So if you could just get one or two computers at a church or community center, or if you could get a couple computers in your elementary school, wouldn't that be enough to get started with this? And why wait for other people to help you get started when we can? And then I walk through the actions to get used computer systems. And I worked out a deal with another presenter before I went up there that we could get two or three used computers to this particular audience. So at the end, the ask was for them to use these computers and form a group that would go around to these other places and advocate the use of computers in their environment. And guess what my company sold? We sold white box computers that basically were affordable, great for a school environment. People buy them 10, 15 at a time. And I volunteered that if people came up to me after the presentation, I'd be more than happy to sit down with them and brainstorm the opportunity to get computers in their community. And you know what? Nobody else was going to help them. We were going to get these computers in their community. We're going to get them set up, and we're going to get some training programs together so they could get started. The audience went crazy. It turned into quite a few, uh, 5 or 10 computers here and there, and entry into elementary schools and middle schools that did not have computers at the time. Again, this is the 1990s. And so I just gave you an example of a delivery in the presentation body that was in the form of a story that demonstrated something. Now, as you can see, this talking points concept is something that we could go over in a workshop or a meeting, and we could talk about this for hours and actually develop practical examples for your speaking presentation. So, for example, if someone says marketing is too expensive, you can show them how to do some small lead generation campaigns to raise some money and then offer to do a webinar or a workshop at a low cost for them to see how to build those campaigns out. There's a lot of opportunities here. But I'm going to have an ask for you. I'd like you to engage in this particular topic. So if you're interested in the notes from this presentation, it's 4 pages. It has a couple pretty flow charts, some examples, some bullet points to look at, and it's ties to a larger presentation I do. Then you're going to visit www.adbriefing.co.uk. And you're going to go to the contact page, simply ask for information about J0204A, which is the Building Talking Points workshop. Now, in this workshop, we cover the whole story series and then how to use these talking points as off the cuff pocket presentations that you can use to persuade an audience, to influence an audience, to build your credibility with an audience, or to even generate leads or sales. Now, of course, it's not a full presentation about how to do platform sales or sell from the platform, but today you don't have to have a platform anymore. You can use short form and mid 15 20 minute length to generate leads like I'm demonstrating to you right now. So again, as I wrap this up, today's episode has really been about building these chunks of information. Each of these chunks is going to have a hook, a promise, a delivery, and an ask, and they're chained together within your larger sales letter format or the larger modules and formats of your presentation. It allows you to quickly and easily present on topics where you have a high level of knowledge, but to do so in a sequential way that takes the audience person from where they are to the solution they desire. And then at that end, you've given them enough details that they're confident to ask you for more help so that they can engage you in a service itself. I'm Justin Hitt from Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. Again, if you have any questions, we're always here to answer them, and we're looking forward to hearing of your successes. I'll see you in the next episode.